How do we get more involvement, participation, appreciation for what we're broadly calling arts and culture, and what creative things can we do to through volunteerism, getting involved in schools, resources in libraries, or other civic buildings, or on Saturdays or Sundays for people to participate in. That investment has an indirect return back to the people who are making the investment when we talk about municipalities like Philadelphia or counties and townships, etc.
College. And one of the things that I think we can do, one of the things that has worked is if I'm bringing in a program that's going to cost $5,000, I don't just do it at my college, but I get other colleges to buy into that. So therefore...
Summer, Fairmount Park has wonderful affordable camps, state camps. They go on for like 2 weeks at a time, whatever. But the Hort Centers, they're almost empty.
So it's an example of a space that could be used as part of the space bank.
Absolutely.
That's a wonderful idea.
Yes, it is.
Other ideas, from other art.
In a century where we do a lot of things on our own, we're home, we're with our televisions, we're with our other electronic equipment, compared to this time, the last century, where there were lots of fraternal organizations. People used to belong to things. They belonged to the Elks Club or the Moose Club, or they were more, other kind of fraternal organizations. They were more involved in their churches. They were, movement toward community arts organizations, and that's the new gathering place. That's the new place where you're going to find groups of people, and where people are going to find their community identities. And so, it's all important in the fabric of building a community, just like you have to have, on Main Street, like the grocer and necessary to make those.
I think Philadelphia has tremendous things, but I'm going to go back to again. If the story doesn't get told and your local media does a lousy job, and say, we're having this big deal with lots of kids, sorry, we ain't going to be there.
High school teacher, I teach students in the suburbs. When they go to the city, they get there by train, but they can't get to place because their parents just don't want to hop on the subways and don't go to the subways.
Somehow make everybody think that it's happening here, Like, it's happening here. We are a center of arts and creativity, but if that was just sort of common knowledge.
That's the Philadelphia attitude.
I know, it's like New York, we're in the shadow of New York, but we've got to realize it is happening here and not be so self-deprecating.
There was an article in the Inquirer a few months ago about the local theater scene here, and an incredible statistic that there's something like over 24 professional theater buildings, that is stages and audiences, in the region of Philadelphia. And there's something like 40 resident professional theater companies in Philadelphia. And most of them are at the level of the Walnut Street, the drawing a blank on some of the Arden, the Wilma. These are really New York level theaters, and they're professional. In fact, a lot of times they test in New York. And I don't have the access to the information. I'm sure someone could find this, but I would suspect that other than New York, Philadelphia now has probably one of the most diverse, vibrant, and effective theater scenes in the country. It's commercials that we spend money on that say Philly's more fun when you sleep over, the place that loves you back. All these nebulous advertising slogans don't do the job. What we need is to take whatever advertising dollars we have and direct them towards, again, an advertising program that would be directed both at the region as well as nationally, even internationally, that tells people, guess what? Philadelphia has more theaters than any other place except New York. Guess what? Philadelphia has more art museums and more diverse art than any other, et cetera, et cetera. Break it down into specifics so that over time, people in the rest of the world and in Philadelphia start to realize, you know what? We live in an incredible place. Culturally, it's on.
Transportation is a really big problem for people in the suburbs who are just scared to go to the city, but maybe there's some really small, just, directions to how to get to this place and where to park and here's some restaurants that could be on the brochure that would make it seem more accessible or something.
Kind of take away any assumptions.
Great opportunities. One is the technology and doing something tying in citizens with the technology is a great free thing. And if you can motivate people to act and forward and do sort of viral email kind of approach, not virus, but viral, and spreading the word and creating that buzz, that doesn't cost an organization anything.
I was going to say, I know that the cultural mayor of London, and we talked about a lot of these issues of social capital, and I wonder if it's worth looking at international models, because a lot of the European cities are really forward-thinking when it comes to things like social capital, and the politicians are completely on board about this whole idea of social capital and investing. I mean, obviously, it's a socialist community we're talking about, but I think there are some really positive things that can come out of just looking at European studies on how they have managed to.
Don't worry about it, we're just gonna go for the common ground.
What seems like, have you right that across counties, across disciplines?
Got it as far as you went without.
Health job, what else should be his takeaway from what you want to say?
With this whole economic crisis, people saying, you know, I'm going to have to make a decision on how I'm going to spend my money, and things are not good, but they're choosing the arts. Now, I don't know whether this is just the crowd I'm running with, but, you know, it's like, I may not go out to dinner, but I will keep my theater tickets.
Have to think about ways to cross-promote within each institution the services of the other institutions, because these are your customers, people who are already buying arts and cultural activities.
Just more and more positive examples, but we use different spaces, so if you don't have a space, you have to think of what is existing, be it the library or whatever else, and that's one way of pulling all those things together.
But part of that is about Space Bank, it's also about the 3 C's, about collaborating.
Exactly.
One point that was mentioned up on stage by one of the last speakers was, let's not lose this energy. Let's figure out how to take what we learned back wherever we're from and use the 3 C's there, you know, promote the arts there, help people find space, and then let's make sure that we're communicating with each other to bring the region together